International surveys are gaining in popularity now in respect of producing information which individual nations can reflect on in terms of their own performance, and then think about how, say, complex factors mix together in different systems to give them either poor or high performance. I think these surveys are a good tool for pointing out to us those systems that are improving and those systems that have put in place policy which have led to improvements, and that in itself is a very, very important mechanism. Obviously, each country has its own culture, its own history, it has its own complex conjunction of factors which give rise to performance in their setting. Now, the good thing is I've been able to say that. It's a recognition that that's happening, and that can help with the sensitivity with which we approach the outcomes which these surveys produce. They are relatively new, so governments are not necessarily tuned to using the outcomes with precision and fidelity. And David Rafe has, I think, introduced a very elegant phrase, which is policy learning. In other words, you look at these other systems, you look at the way in which things interact, and then you can reflect on your own system and what interventions might push your own system in the right direction. These surveys have to select things that are in common across systems. It's kind of a prerequisite that the items make sense across the totality of those participating in the sample. So they do tend to converge on certain things. We do have to watch this problem of countries increasingly converging just on the items within the surveys. That would be undue narrowing of the curriculum focus of nations, and it's something which OECD and researchers are actually warning against. The underlying methodology and the assumptions which drive these surveys should, of course, be subject to constant scientific scrutiny. The improvement in the methodology is actually a double-edged sword, because as the surveys get better and they're more finely tuned, of course you're not actually then comparing like with like, because you've changed the measurement instruments. So this methodology area is one which is fraught with problems. But I'm convinced that we're becoming more and more elegant and more refined in the way in which we're running these surveys. It's all looking pretty good in terms of the way in which we're building up a science around these surveys.